Every day, independent oil and natural gas producers are out there drilling smarter, going farther, and delivering the energy that fuels our economy and strengthens our national security. It's a side of the industry that's dynamic and foundational to how affordable, reliable energy gets made in America. This podcast is about diving into that world. We're talking tech, policy, production, and pressure points. Everything that shapes how American energy actually works. This is Longer Laterals. Welcome to another episode of Longer Laterals. I'm Anne Bradbury, the CEO of the American Exploration and Production Council, and this is where America's energy story meets Washington. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Toby Rice, the president and CEO of EQT, one of America's leading natural gas producers with operations focused in the Appalachian Basin. Toby, thank you for being with us today.
Good, happy to be here, Ann.
Toby, you are one of the most well-known CEOs in the energy industry, and you are particularly well-known as a natural gas guy. But a little-known fun fact about you, which I know, is that you actually started in the oil business in Texas. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your origin story and how you went from there to become one of the country's leading CEOs of one of the biggest natural gas producers in the country and one of the biggest evangelists for natural gas.
Sure. People are most surprised at the story to realize it started in Boston, Massachusetts. There are 38 states in America that produce hydrocarbons. Massachusetts is not one of them. So I had no clue what the heck people were doing in this industry until I was 23 years old. I was sweeping a chimney at MIT, waking up every day trying to figure out what's next in life for me. And I finally went to my father and said, "Hey, Dad, can you be a dad and give me some guidance in life?" And he looks at me, he says, "Well, what about the oil and gas industry?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? I thought they just did that in Saudi Arabia." He says, "No, they do that in America." And I was like, okay, that's interesting. 10-minute conversation. It was clear to me that this is something I wanted to do. It was big risk, big reward. It seemed like modern day treasure hunting. And because I had a chemistry background, undergrad degree, he said, "Well, why don't you be a petroleum engineer? Go to the greatest petroleum engineering school in the country, Texas A&M, and figure out what hydraulic fracturing and horizontal and unconventional reservoirs are, and focus on that." And I said, "I've never heard those those four words before, but I'll go and figure it out." Classes didn't start for a while, so I actually hustled down to Texas and got my first job working as a floor hand on a workover rig. So my first job in this industry was $9 an hour with a $2 an hour safety pay.
In the Permian?
Yeah, I broke out in West Texas. Wrench and rosin was a pole pipe in East Texas. And then classes started and went to school for about a year. Thought I knew enough. I dropped out and started my first consulting business. My mom was I'll never forget my mom crying, worried about what the hell I'm going to do dropping out of school. I told her it's going to all work out. And then that consulting firm cracks on the code on some technology, and that's what gave us the opportunity to start Rice Energy. And that really was the start of what has led us up to where we're at today. But I will tell you, this has not been planned to be here. We're truly grateful for the opportunity.
That's a really unique origin story. So now you're one of the biggest producers, I think the biggest producer potentially in the Appalachian Basin. Tell me how you ended up in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so I started when we started Rice Energy. My father, he was a investor in oil and gas properties, and I was 24 years old. And my attitude back then was, they tell you you're young, you can afford to take big risks. And that was our approach towards investing in oil and gas. And after the sixth dry hole, we pretty much blew all of our money. I realized that was a bad investment philosophy. Fortunately, we were able to get a little bit lucky, put some new technology out, and discovered 1 million barrels of oil in the Sprayberry. And I said, enough of this wildcatting stuff. This is very risky. Let's go do something we know. And that's where we got pointed up to Pennsylvania in the Appalachian region. Now, we had maybe $10 million in our pocket. You can't really do much with $10 million of this industry. But our attitude was, this is a very big play. It's over 16 million acres in size. At the time, the Barnett was established. The Haynesville was, a lot of the land buying activities was focused in the Haynesville. Not a lot of people were talking about the Marcellus. This is 2006, 2007. Range had just drilled their well. And we got in there early. And leased across the state, drilled our first well, but that's how we got started. But it was after a lot of failure. A lot of people don't realize, like, we were one well away from not even existing. So to become what's happened at Rice Energy, where we drilled our first well in 2010, fast forward from where we started the company from 2007 to 2017, when we sold our company to EQT, we had to flip the coin, I'd say, multiple times. And people don't realize this. We flip the coin as a private company. We don't do that as a public company, but there's those situations: heads you win, tails you're bust.
Wow.
So, I mean, we're incredibly grateful for where we're at. But when we sold our business to EQT in 2017, we had gone through all the value creation levers, and we pulled them all. We went through identifying the bright spots, where's the best place to drill. We went through the wildcat phase, the exploration. We went through the value creation from capturing all the land you can, cracking the code on the well design. Then for us, it was, well, what can we do to create another step change in value for our shareholders? And drilling longer laterals was the key. And so combining with EQT allowed us to drill 12,000 foot laterals as opposed to 8,000, increase our economics by 30%. And we made a tough decision to combine. And the combination of Rice Energy and EQT is what created America's largest natural gas producer.
Yep.
And then went to the house for a little bit and then came back about a year later.
Very cool. Really, side note, fun fact, who is the other chimney sweep that is a prominent figure in American energy?
Oh, this is great. Yeah. Doug Burgum.
Yeah.
He's a chimney sweep. We were backstage for a range. I was introducing him, and I was trying to get some stats on him. I wanted to make the points that he's, he understands business, understands energy. And I was asking him what his background was. And he says, I was in North Dakota and I was sweeping chimneys. And I was like, you're a chimney sweep? I'm a chimney sweep. It was like
That's so crazy.
Two guys that were alone on an island for years, finding themselves. And it was a thunderous high five. It was great.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. You're probably the only two chimney sweeps I know, at least that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
So you have been talking about the importance of permitting reform before it was cool to be talking about the importance of permitting reform. So permitting reform is having a moment in Washington right now. You've got a lot of really important stakeholders coming to the table, having really constructive conversations. But from your vantage point as the CEO of EQT and a huge producer in the Appalachia Basin, talk to me a little bit about the importance of permitting reform and what it would mean for the everyday American.
Yeah, so let's look at what the everyday American is feeling right now. We are in a country, thanks to the Roughnecks and the Wildcatters and all these great American businesses, many of whom you represent in AXPC. America is at a place where we have gained our energy independence. We are producing record amounts of energy right now. If you added up the oil and gas that we're producing in this country, it would total over 30 million barrels a day of energy. That's more than Russia and Saudi Arabia combined. This is massive. What a big win for the American public. Unfortunately, people are scratching their heads and saying, well, we're producing so much energy in this country. Why are my energy bills going up over 35%? Because it's not just about getting the cost to get it out of the ground. It's actually getting it to a consumer. And what we've seen with natural gas in this country is we've seen demand grow 50% over the last 15 years, but infrastructure to service that demand has only grown 25%, and storage infrastructure has only grown 10%. So the only way you can service demand by not building as much pipe is by maxing out the existing infrastructure you have. Well, guess what? I mean, that after 8 years of the pipeline cancellation movement, which started in 2018, the infrastructure is maxed out. And we've got a big crisis that's about to hit. You see utilities from New England writing letters to then it was writing letters to Biden saying they were unsure whether or not we could meet winter conditions. It could be another geopolitical event that could throw us into a crisis. Quite frankly, we're just not ready to handle an issue like this. So American energy bills are up. That's a signal that's actually being felt. But this is an issue that needed to get addressed for a long time now. Now, permit reform is going to be the answer. We need to get back to getting things built in this country. EQT, we own one of these pipeline projects called Mountain Valley Pipeline.
Yeah. So
we know firsthand all the games that are being played and the issues that can come up from our current regulatory system right now. For those of people that don't know, MVP, which Mountain Valley Pipeline, we call it America's most valuable pipeline, is a pipeline it's a 300-mile pipeline that runs from West Virginia down to Virginia. And it was originally slated to get built for about $3 billion, and it was going to take about 36 months. $8 billion later, in over 8 years, this pipeline finally got built. And the only reason this pipeline got built is because it took an act of Congress to get it finished, which is, people should be appalled by that fact.
Yeah.
And for people that are cheering about how hard it is to get energy infrastructure built, and there are some people that cheer when pipelines get blocked. To those people, if you think it's, as I say to them this, if you think it's hard to get a pipeline built, try getting your transmission line built. If you think it's hard to get on a gas location built, try getting a 5,000 acre solar facility wind farm. It's hard for anything to get built, regardless of the type of energy. So we are in a unique period of time where we've got the catalyst being Americans are seeing their energy bills go up. We've got alignment with industry because we're not trying to pick one energy solution or the other. I think we can approach this with a all of the above approach, and have that principle and advocate for that. Get all forms of energy on the playing field, and then let the market determine what is the right solution. So we've got the catalyst, we've got the alignment. Now it's just up to great leaders in Washington, D.C. to help educate these people. And it's a big job for you. Permanent reform will not happen unless you are playing on your A game. And we're really excited about the prospects. It has to happen. And I just say this, people have been hearing energy executives complain about how hard it is to get things built. I mean, you've been hearing us say this people have been hearing us say this I've been saying it for 20 years. It's so difficult. Oh my goodness, the regulations. And I think some people have gotten numb to that. And maybe we get labeled as the boy who cried wolf. But unfortunately, after 8 years of not getting infrastructure built in this country, the wolf is here. And it's exactly what happened in Europe could happen here in America. And with this AI wave that's taking place, the need to win this AI race means we need to get serious, and it needs to start now.
Yeah, love that. So much to unpack. So first, I think on MVP, what's so interesting at MVP is it shows the absurdity of needing an act of Congress to build a natural gas pipeline. But it also shows that there is bipartisan support for building natural gas pipelines. As that got passed, as I think it was an omnibus bill, or maybe a debt limit bill. And it was ended up being not terribly controversial at the end of the day, because there is support for that. But we shouldn't have to do that. We should be able to build things through the normal permitting process. I want to pick up on what you were saying about AI. The Appalachia region, Pennsylvania, Ohio in particular, is really becoming a hub for data centers and AI data centers. And we are in this existential race with China to win the AI war. Talk a little bit about the role that natural gas can play, is playing, needs to play in this geopolitical battle that we're in with China over AI.
Yeah, so I think it starts by just making sure everybody understands the urgency at which we need to move to win this AI race. The people need to know America has enemies. And, we had 9/11 a few weeks ago. We always told ourselves we were never going to forget. And that is a symbol that reminds us that we do have enemies. And AI is not all sunshines and rainbows. There's some scary things that are going to take place if we don't win this AI race. And to let the scoreboard, I believe that the game that we're playing to win the AI race, it's not about the chips. It's not about the models. It's not about the apps. It's going to be about the power infrastructure that we build. Whoever can build power infrastructure the fastest is going to win this race. So here's the scoreboard. In the US, what have we done from a power perspective? The reliable energy that we built in the last 24 months in this country, reliable, forget the renewables here. Reliable energy is what it's going to take to win, to power AI. We added 6 gigawatts of reliable power generation in the last 24 months. What did China do? China added over 60 gigawatts of reliable power gen. They're building 10 times as fast
with coal.
Over 40 of that was coal, and they initiated construction on almost 100 gigawatts of coal in just this last year. So, this is what we are up against. Their grid, they're building 10 times faster than us, and their grid is twice as large. There is a lot of catch up that we need. And I don't want to put all of this on the technology firms to out innovate. We've got to give them the muscle to be able to. And our job in this whole thing, the energy industry, our job is to make sure our tech customers have all the energy they need so that they can run full throttle. They got a lot of things to worry about. Getting access to energy should not be one of them. That's where companies like EQT are going to step up And we are going to be making sure that Pittsburgh becomes America's next AI hub. We had an amazing event a couple months ago. I don't know if people saw that, but the PA Energy and Innovation Summit, we've got a great Senator McCormick. Thanks to his leadership, he convened, I think, probably one of the most impactful meetings conference I've ever been a part of. The president showed up, half a dozen cabinet members are great. Chris Wright was there, Secretary Doug Burgum was there, and half a dozen other cabinet members. We had C-suite executives from the tech firms there. We had $3 trillion of capital providers in attendance, and then we had all of the big oil executives there. And what we did was pretty impactful. Over $90 billion in investments were announced that day to build the AI ecosystem starting in Pittsburgh. At EQT, we announced over 1.5 BCF a day of natural gas supply to these new power plants that are going to power this AI revolution. And for perspective, 1.5 BCF a day of natural gas is going to be able to generate enough power to power almost 2 New York cities. I mean, this is like major stuff. And when you step back and you realize what we actually need to do to win this AI race, estimates are all over the board. You'll see in our earnings, we say anywhere from 50 to 75 gigawatts to meet the AI needs. Chris Wright has come out last week and said we need 100 gigawatts to win this, to meet our AI needs. Just for perspective, that is the equivalent of adding 20 New York cities to the grid. So next time anybody's flying over New York City, just look at that and say, this is the next challenge. And I think we're in a situation where you look at this and you look past, you say, man, what are we going to do? I don't know if we have the ability to meet this. Well, remember this, Anne, 20 years ago, we found ourselves in the same exact situation where we were looking at the future and we said, man, we're running out of oil. How are we going to get the energy to meet our needs? And what happened? This industry cracked the code on shale, and we transformed America from being energy dependent to being an energy powerhouse on the world stage.
Yep.
Guess what's going to happen again? We're going to meet the call. We're going to make sure these people get this energy so that we can win this race. But unfortunately, we cannot do this alone. We are going to need a lot of help, and permanent reform is going to be absolutely critical for us to be able to run full speed.
Absolutely. Let's pick up on that innovation piece you talked about. So EQT is an incredibly innovative company, innovations related to greater efficiencies, greater sustainability, emissions reductions. Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing on that innovation front to produce ever cleaner natural gas and why that's so important to you?
Yeah, let's talk about the innovation that's taken place in this industry, and then we can show how we've pointed and addressed methane emissions. People love talking about the efficiency gains that you've seen in some of the renewable sides of things. What have we done in our industry? Well, the first well I ever drilled was a 2,000-foot horizontal well. It took me over 45 days to drill it, and I got I think the hole collapsed when I was about 100 feet from hitting TD. It was an absolute nightmare. Last week, EQT announced that we just drilled over 12,800 feet in 24 hours.
That's insane.
Okay. You look at this record amounts of production we have in this country today, we're doing that with 500 rigs.
Yep.
Okay. Compared to the 2,000 rigs that we had to produce a lesser amount of energy. When you step back and you look at the productivity per rig from 2010 till today, you will see a 25-fold increase in the productivity per rig. So this industry is probably one of the most innovative industries in the world. I mean, we joke about having greater technology than NASA. That 25-fold increase in productivity per rig is an example of the innovation here. So when we hear the new calls on our energy, it's not just about being cost effective. It's not just about being reliable. Now it's about being cleaner. Game on. You want to be a part of that. So we've got some of these mines, some of the greatest mines that have cracked the code on shale, done amazing things, crazy innovation. And guess what? Those people are still here in this industry. And so those innovative minds have pointed, and we've pointed those innovative minds at EQT towards addressing methane emissions for natural gas, which is the biggest environmental concern people have on our industry. Let me tell you why it matters that we've got to address methane emissions. And I told, Secretary Granholm this when we met with her a few years ago, to keep the focus on methane emissions because we're going to knock it out of the park. And that's exactly what we've done. And we need to do it because we cannot let the emissions associated with making our product overshadow the emission reduction benefits when people use our product.
Yeah.
And people are shocked when I give them these stats at EQT. Our carbon footprint is around 300,000 tons. That includes methane emissions. That's the emissions associated with making our product. And people will say, well, we need to shut down natural gas development because the amount of emissions are just too much. Well, understand that those emissions allow us to run our entire company, drill the wells, complete the wells, power our trucks and our well tenders to take care of the wells. It's a few 100,000 tons. Those operations will produce amount of product, natural gas. When put on the world stage to replace higher emitting forms of energy like coal, we'll have an emissions reduction benefit of over 150 million tons.
That's incredible.
Okay? So a 300,000 ton cost for 150 million ton benefit. So we need people focused here, not here. And one of the ways to do that is to address methane emissions. So for us at EQT, it started with just hardcore operational efficiency. When we kicked the door down at EQT in 2019, first thing we did was unleash massive combo development, going from drilling 3 or 4 wells off of a pad to drilling 30 to 40 wells off of a sequence of pads. That has allowed us to double our drilling speeds, and the faster you drill, the lower your carbon footprint becomes. We've gone through electrifying the oil field, replacing diesel burning equipment with electric equipment. It's pretty amazing to see how fast electric frac fleets have taken off in this industry. That's a way to lower emissions. And then pinpointing methane emissions. The good news people need to know is we know where these methane emissions are coming from, pneumatic devices. We ripped 9,000 of these out, and we did it in less than 18 months for a cost of less than $40 million. When you look at the emissions reduction on $1 per ton, we did it for less than $10 per ton. Okay. Super cost effective. We did it super quickly. And guess what? That's an opportunity that's not just available to EQT, that's available to every operator. There's over 1 million pneumatic devices installed in the country, and people are knocking these things out of the park.
Yep.
Is the reason why we've seen methane emissions drop almost 50% in this country.
Yep.
Because now operators are saying, hey, if this is an issue for you, we will do exactly what we did with concerns over hydraulic fracturing, radical transparency, operational improvements, and safeguards. And you're seeing a similar type result with methane emissions. So we're incredibly happy about that. And on the global level, it's not just what we're doing here in the U.S. A lot of global players, oil and gas producers, are joining the fight too. There was a pledge that was signed, the Oil and Gas Decarbonization Charter, that was announced at COP in Dubai, I think a couple of years ago. You ever gone to COP?
I haven't.
You got to go to COP. It's you could see the climate movement in physical form. It is one of the most impressive things you'd ever seen. But the OGDCC came together. Over 60% of global energy producers have taken a pledge to radically reduce methane emissions and be near zero methane emissions by 2030. So I think anybody has concerns over methane emissions can look at what we're doing here in the U.S. and look at how that leadership is translating to influencing around the world stage, and have a whole heck of a lot more confidence that the emissions are going to be handled, and let's focus on the benefits of using our product.
Absolutely. And the U.S. industry is one of the most transparent in the world, and the data shows year over year we're continuing to drive down those emissions.
Yep, that's right.
It's really cool. Okay, last question, Toby. We ask this of every guest on our podcast as a last question. What is one thing that would surprise folks in Washington about your job or about the industry as a whole?
Oh, I think this one's very easy. I think people need to understand we're not just out here digging holes in the ground to make a profit. I think you talk to all the CEOs and the people that we work with, like, people are incredibly passionate about what they do, not just because we want to take care of our families and take care of our employees. We're passionate because, we're drilling for a higher purpose. I think this industry is probably one of the most patriotic industries in this country. And I think we take it very seriously. We take our energy independence very seriously. We take winning this AI race very seriously. And guess what? We've got heart. And we know that the more energy that this world uses, the better the world becomes. When I sold my business, when we sold Rice Energy in 2017, I was 35 years old. I was trying to figure out what's next in life for me. And you can be a teacher, you can be a politician. I don't know if that makes the world a better place. There's good things that people can do. You can start a nonprofit, all things to make the world a better place. But when I was looking at what was next for me, I saw this one chart and everything became crystal clear, exactly how we were going to make the world a better place. And it was a chart on energy consumption and quality of life. And it was very simple. The punchline is, the more energy people use, the better quality of life. If you want to make an impact on this world, bring more energy into it.
Yep.
And that's what we do every single day here. If we can pick our heads up and realize that we're not just talking about the success of America here, we're talking about the success of the world. And what's really exciting is to think about the work that we do and the products that we make are really only being enjoyed by a fraction of the world's population. A couple billion people in developed societies, that's who we're keeping the lights on for every day. But there are billions living in darkness. 3 billion people live on less electricity than it takes to run a fridge. Man, if we start thinking about what we can do to empower these people, that's incredibly motivating for us. So all of that, that drive to make the world a better place is something that gets forgotten when we get letters from senators talking to us about price gouging. Get out of here.
Yeah.
We gotta address that so we can focus on the bigger prize. And it's not just taking care of Americans; it's to take care of people around the world. And that's going to create, generations worth of opportunities for people in the energy industry.
That's so inspiring. And I'm going to use that, drilling for a higher purpose. That's a great phrase that I haven't heard before, but it really does represent what so many of our companies, gets them up every day. So I love that so much. Well, thank you so much, Toby, for being with us today. This was so much fun and so insightful. Thank you all for joining us. Really appreciate it. For another episode of Longer Laterals, please subscribe and join us next time.